Okay, well, good morning. It is September 20th. Call the meeting to order. It's 8:35. And the first item is introductions, but we don't have any guests, so I guess we can pass on that. The next item is the minutes of August 23rd. Do we have a motion?
I move we accept the minutes of August 23rd. Wait a minute, I was here.
You weren't here, Jack.
You can make the motion, you just can't vote on it.
I will second Jack's motion.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Abstain. No nays. So 2-0-1. And correspondence. The first thing back and forth, and I think you've seen some scheduling emails. We have a scheduled site walk with Eric Radloff, our forester, on October, what's the date, Jack?
I think it's the 6th, I'm not sure. Oh, walk in the forest, Monday the 7th.
And I am not available on Monday the 7th, but you guys can probably walk and give me a little recap on how it went.
Okay, it looks like 8:30 on October 7th.
Yep. And you can come if you want, Tom.
I actually would be interested in doing that. Let's see if that date works. Monday the 7th
Yep, 8:30.
should work.
It'll probably take a couple of hours because we should meet on Profile Drive, there's a profile circle,
Right.
and just take a look at that right of way, make sure that it hasn't been obstructed by abutters. And then I think we'll probably drive around to the Mitchell Street side and go in from there, because that's where the landing area would be if we ever did any forestry. And that's where the sanitary protection zone is for the proposed MVD wells.
Okay, so we're gonna meet on profile.
Yep. And I think it's around number 11. I'd have to look that up. I got some maps I emailed out. Plot plans. So I think those have gone out. You should have them in your emails.
Yep.
And then over to Lawrence Road, the center of the lot parcel is 21 Lawrence Road, so it's not very far down. But I think there's about 1,000 feet of frontage there. And what Eric wants to use for an entry point, I don't know. We'll have to figure that out when we get there. Other than that, the plans that we have that were done by Mike Powers before he left didn't really call for anything until about 2025. He says we could do a small harvest or a modest harvest on Lawrence Road, and that might bring in 50% of what we did in 2004, so it may be worthwhile to wait, but I think we have to see that when we're actually on site. Anybody else have any comments on that? Anything we want to specifically bring up on the site walk?
I mean, this is just, from an economic standpoint, I'd like to understand if it would make any sense to do a quote-unquote modest harvest. I mean, what are wood prices? Are they high, low? If they were low, I would say let's definitely push it off. If they're high, maybe we should consider it. I don't know.
Well, it's part of the
Timber
reason
prices.
for the site walk, so yeah. My recollection is compared to previous years, because the economy's always growing, 2004 was an unusually large financially harvest. So
I guess we could do some research on that, lumber prices or whatever.
Well, that's what we have a forester for, yeah.
Doesn't seem like it makes sense if the prices aren't very high to go strip out stuff now. If it's really early.
I can't disagree with you.
Well, it's also part of the tree farm management, you know, culling the undergrowth and, but we'll probably never see the 24,000 that we saw that year in the harvest. More like the 14 from before.
Yeah. Well, we shall see. In any event, in order to do a harvest, we have to go to town meeting and get a town meeting vote to do it with a warrant article on the subject matter. And that would be March, April. So it probably wouldn't be until the fall of 2020 before we could do a harvest or a cut.
Okay, I didn't realize we needed that vote.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep, that was part of the
Oh.
request, that it be approved by town meeting, and that a member of the school board and a member of the town council or selectmen be part of the oversight committee. So, what else we got here? Other correspondence. I received a check 34 $3,334 to contribute to the
Oh, Tim Gibson.
Gibson Scholarship
Right.
Fund. So that's ready to go. I don't think we need any action from us. It's just a donation to deposit.
They have quite a bit of money in the income bucket.
They've got 189, I looked it up last night, as of June 30th, $189,000 in principal, market value, 15,000 on the income side accumulated. And we awarded a scholarship in May that is due to be paid probably in January. So this is a good addition. The question that I had was, if we're going to have a contribution, I think this is from softball tournament, every year, instead of putting 100% of it into principal, can we pick a number, $1,000 onto the income side, and then increase the award by $1,000?
I thought that's what the Gibsons wanted to do.
Well, they want to increase the award.
Right.
And when we talked about it last year, we didn't feel, because the income, our income last year was $4,700.
Right, you
So-
advised them to wait, I think.
And, well, and the year before, it was like $3,700. So we were just breaking even at that point. So we said, let's wait a year or two. Now we're up to $4,700. The principal's a little bit larger. Maybe we get an opportunity to increase it, say to 4,000. And I think we need to take a look at that. It wasn't on the agenda for specific discussion, but it needs to be done early in 2020 so that the school knows what the award is going to be. And I can talk to the Gibsons and see what their feeling is. I guess the other question I had was if, and I think this is our interpretation one way or the other, if we have a donation to the scholarship fund, can it be designated as principal, income, or does it always have to go to principal? And my impression is it could be the donor's choice. Any thoughts?
Well, isn't there some people that manage or direct that whole fund, or, I mean, are we just, I mean, do the Gibson family, who has the authority to say, I guess the bottom line is, who has the authority to say, you know, split it up, or don't split it up, or whatever?
Well, I think we do. We're the managers of the fund. We don't pick
So you're telling us,
we don't pick the recipient.
but you're
and
saying
don't
that we
make the
can,
donations.
we can say, hey, we're gonna put, you know, 3/4 of that in principal and 1/4 in to award?
Well, I don't think that's our choice,
Well, that's
but I could be wrong.
whose choice is that? That's my
I
question.
think it's the donor.
Yeah.
I mean, usually if somebody gives you money, they can suggest what the money is being given for.
But all of that aside, it sounds like we could beef it up by $500 and probably be okay, right?
I think so.
Yeah.
I think the other option that Tom Gibson was talking about was adding another scholarship at 3,000, so that there would be one more scholarship to give out. I don't know.
Well, that was kind of one of their original goals, is to give out 2 $3,000 scholarships. I'm not sure they want to split it up at 4,000 and give out 2 $2,000 scholarships. But I guess the point is, I would contact the Gibsons if that's the will of the board,
Yeah, I think
and
that.
see what their
That's what I would do.
feeling is.
I think we're pretty well in agreement for that.
So there's no governing document over that?
There is a governing document,
Okay.
but it doesn't address those kinds of issues.
Okay.
It basically says, what most of our things say is, income from the principal goes to the income side of the MS9 and is to be used for scholarships. And that we pick or establish the annual amount.
Okay.
Upcoming events. Cambridge Trust is putting on a thought series. The speaker is
An Olympic,
an Olympic rower, if I remember correctly. And that's September
26.
26th, Thursday.
yeah, you're going.
I am.
I haven't figured out if I can go yet.
Well, I think there's some food involved, so you need to make your reservation pretty quick.
Yep. Are you going?
I can't.
Okay. I think I'll be going.
Okay, well,
Better contact them.
yeah.
Okay.
I don't remember seeing an RSVP deadline, but
There was one.
it may be on there.
Ah. Right, gonna take down the number. I just want to take down the number because there is no deadline here.
Okay. Next item on the agenda was the Watkins Forest Walk, so I guess we've covered that. And the next item on the agenda is a possible meeting with the school board, as we have done in years past, I have gone to the superintendent's office to brief the superintendent on what we have for funds and so forth on an informal basis. And then, since we have a new superintendent, we haven't done that in, I don't know, 3 or 4 years, I think. In any event, I'm scheduled to see them, Matt and Mark, Thursday afternoon. So we'll see if they have anything unusual, and if we need to or want to go to the school board. The school board has not been asking us for a lot of money lately, so we're accumulating some funds, and maybe we should be more aggressive in giving stuff out or getting them to ask for stuff, because we can't say what the projects are going to be. But the money is not intended to be sitting there accumulating. It's intended to go to the student benefit. So that's what that's all about. Is there anything you want me to bring to them?
Well, I think just letting Mark know, Mark McLaughlin, know about what's going on. I don't think that he was on top of it like Marge was. I think he's got other
Yeah,
things.
he had a different perspective as the assistant commissioner, or, excuse me,
Right.
assistant superintendent.
But I think just informing him of the different accounts and how much
The
money's there.
availability.
Yeah.
I think the biggest roadblock for some of this stuff is that all of the funds have some specific purpose, mostly grades 1 through 8. Master Cola fund is for Master Cola, and the only one that's kind of wide open is Gage and Lawrence. So, that grade 1 through 8 restriction is a little bit of a stumbling block when you try to come up with stuff. In my opinion, it's easier to spend money at the high school level because they have bigger projects and a bigger school and bigger student body and all that kind of thing. But we have that restriction to grades 1 through 8. So we will see what they have in mind. I think.
I'll just throw the bait out there that, there's potential funds available if you got a project that's worthy.
Yep. Mark did mention the Chinese language program that we started a couple of years ago. And that one was unique in the sense that Jack and I were just at the school board meeting for a routine presentation. Here we are, nice to shake your hand kind of thing. And some members of the parent body spoke at the beginning of the meeting and said, we think having a Mandarin program would be a good idea. And Jack and I kind of looked at that and said, we could do that. And we presented it to the board as a possibility that night, and they ran with it.
Right, we put in 50,000 as a feeder for that program.
Yeah. And then it took a couple of years, and then it worked its way into the regular school budget. But I thought it was very successful, and I thought being seed money for a variety of things is good. The library projects that we've done have been very good, so
This is just coming off the top of my head, and I certainly don't have a personal interest or whatever, but I'd like to understand more about the vocational programs, because we are in desperate need of young people with vocational skills. And, Mandarin's great. I think that's awesome, because the world is flat now, or whatever they say, but we need plumbers, electricians,
God, yes.
carpenters, cooks. It's just terrible. And I'd like, if there was something we could do, or if they needed a piece of machinery that was important in the, I don't even know what.
Yeah, we don't know what their needs are.
I'd love to, yeah. I know they have some kind of automotive tech curriculum, and then, I don't know, do they have a wood shop or a metal shop or anything like that anymore, or is that all gone, or?
I thought that was at the middle school.
No, middle school now, because I did have some experience with that, they do a lot of simulated stuff. They don't do anything actually with their hands are actually on.
Well, the way the state's laid out at Department of Education is they've got these centers of technical excellence, CTEs. And they designate certain areas, like for culinary arts, Alvarin and Milford. So our people that want to go into culinary arts get bused over there. And same with automotive, I believe.
Well, I think they still have automotive here
Yeah.
at the high school.
Do
don't
they?
I'm pretty sure.
Oh,
Anyways, I would love to know if there's something we could do for a vocational activity. Maybe that's something you could ask Mark about, or
Okay,
yeah. That's a good idea.
electronics.
Well, we have an electronics lab at the middle school.
And a lot of the equipment is expensive, so if they said, hey, we need a new oscilloscope that's got the latest bells and whistles, you know, that would be something I might support if
sure.
I, felt like it was substantiated.
I know that stuff's always tough because electronics and tends to be expensive. It tends to have a short life expectancy before it's outdated or outmoded.
Well, we've had Nancy come here and I think we've bought pieces to computers or computers and software and
Yep.
so forth, so it all kind of weaves together.
I will bring that up. Okay,
This item is portfolio review.
yes. So I think there's two questions to discuss here. One is, when do we want to have people from Cambridge Trust come back again?
What was it,
We don't
May or
need-
June they came?
Yeah, it was May, I think, because we were figuring for the June drawdown. But I think maybe November.
Sounds good.
We could do November, we can do January.
I'd vote for November.
Yeah, I think November.
Okay.
It was interesting the way the Fed dropped a quarter point the other day. Everybody was expecting a half a point.
I'm kind of the school that you don't need to drop. You know, the rates are so low now,
Yeah.
it's not inhibiting expansion.
That was a split vote. Two guys voted not to drop.
Well, for a while I've had the opinion that, all the economic stuff aside, nobody mentions this, but if you increase interest rates, then all the retirees who are relying on interest rates and bonds and other fixed income vehicles, all of a sudden have more money, and what do retired people do? They just spend their money, because that's all they, they're right on the edge of income for a lot of them. So it's not like they're hoarding it somewhere. But that never seems to come out. But I did talk to, or emailed Eric about the question of banks and interest rates, and that lower interest rates putting pressure on the banks and so forth. I think we own a little bit of JP Morgan, a little bit of
Oh, that's good.
Citibank.
All the financials went up.
Well, last financials went up a little bit yesterday when the interest rate change was announced. But our exposure has been reduced from 14% to 11.3%. Does that sound right?
I think, yeah, or 12 or something like that, he said.
So we've reduced our exposure to the financial spectrum, which I think is probably a good sense of direction.
Yeah, that was on Wednesday they did that.
Yeah.
But some of those banks, like you mentioned, JP Morgan and Citi, I don't think they're going out of business, and they have a pretty good dividend. And, if we're worried about income, I think is Citibank like 2.7 or 8% yield, and I don't know what JP Morgan is. I know Wells Fargo is 4 something, 4.4 or something like that.
Whoa.
I don't think any of them are going out of business. So I'm not as nervous about, you know, churning the bank position that much. I think it's been a laggard for a while now, and you know, from a contrarian standpoint, I like that, so.
Well, I guess my thought process is that some of the reasons we're holding this is just plain diversification. We're not aimed at growth. It's always intriguing to me that, you know, our goal is to have income so that we can give the income away in most of these instances. And when you listen to financial analysis on television, at least, or even magazines, whatever your source is, they focus on growth. You know, the Dow went up this, the NASDAQ went up or down on a daily basis. And of course, any financial advisor tells you, don't worry about the daily stuff. You should be invested long-term and, you know, what's your horizon and so forth. So it's,
I think I'd rather hold J.P. Morgan than Beyond Meat. For value and for longevity. Anybody can
processed vegetables.
process vegetables into a hamburger patty.
I'm not sure about that, but the big issue there is distribution and marketing.
Yeah, but if you're one of the big provisions companies that's been making hot dogs and hamburgers forever, seems like you could mash up vegetables and make
And make them taste like meat.
veggie patties.
Now, as I recall, we kept we have our Walmart stock, right?
I hope so.
Walmart's getting into the direct head-to-head delivery with Amazon here. I don't know if that's gonna take off or not.
Walmart's really successful right now, and they've grown their what do they call it? I want to say internet, but there's another word for it.
Online business?
Well, that too, yeah.
Yeah.
They're doing really well.
Yeah.
I hope we don't sell our position in Walmart.
Right. And with the delivery they've got, I mean, have they got?
I don't even know if we have a position in Walmart, though. I don't remember us having a position in
We
Walmart.
had a
I don't have my
position.
portfolio listing in hand.
Yeah, I don't
Yeah.
have mine.
We had a
Funny.
position in Walmart. I think we
I
might
think
have
they still have
cut
it.
half of it. Yeah, I'd have to look at the,
Microsoft's going
I do
strong.
get a kick out of
is
it.
it?
Texas Instruments just upped
Oh,
their
good. That was a good decision.
dividend, big
Did they?
time, right?
Oh, did they? I didn't see that.
Yeah,
When was that? Yesterday or the day before?
I don't know, up 17%,
Wow.
That's impressive.
yeah. So that yield is up to like 2.8 or something.
And that's a yield on a $130 stock now.
$130 stock, right?
When we bought it in the 50s, I think. So, but we don't own that much in this portfolio, unfortunately.
Yeah.
Yeah, we tend to have a lot more diversification than we used to have when we were picking stocks, because we didn't have the time to do all the appropriate research. So our diversification is much better now than the focus we used to.
Well, it is, but you know, this is just personal comment, but I always get nervous when these guys, they just try to spread you across like the S&P 500, because, you know, let's face it, these guys get measured on the performance against these major indices, and they don't get measured on how greatly they exceed their performance. They get measured on how they protect your principal. So they tend to, you know, what is that saying? They tend to go towards the mean or whatever, or, and
Towards safety.
I think I've seen that in Cambridge Trust. Not that any other similar institution wouldn't do the same, but, you know, I saw that in the Rotary Scholarship Fund when we had some company managing it. All they wanted to do was meet the performance of the S&P 500. They didn't really want to exceed it.
Well, when you're doing it on behalf of somebody else, I think you have to be a little more cautious than if you're just doing it for yourself.
I agree.
So, you know, stuff that I would buy for myself, I would never put into any of these portfolios, which I feel bad about sometimes. I bought Amazon way back when, and I can't afford to buy any more now at $2,000 a share, or $1,800 a share, but
Is that right?
yeah.
Oh my gosh. That's
I-
terrific, because I
hope
bought
you-
Amazon.
I hope you didn't sell it.
Well, the funny part of it is it fluctuates what seems like a lot. Percentage-wise, it's not so much, but you can go up $20 or $30 or down $20 or $30 in a day or two. And it's been stuck in that 1,800,
Yeah, but on a $2,000
$1,850.
stock, 20 bucks is,
1%.
yeah,
Yeah.
not anything to get emotional over.
Well, the other side of it is it's been hovering in that $1,800 range now for the last 6 months, back and forth. So, who knows? Anyway, that's to me is an example of a good buy when I bought it, but not a good buy for this particular portfolio.
Anyways, I think Eric said about the bank situation, he said that, you know, they're less concerned with the big banks as they are with the regional banks.
Right.
So,
Anyway,
but their concern may not be the same concern we have. You know, if they're concerned with price either being flat or, you know, going down nominally, we're more concerned with yield, and my point is that some of those banks have pretty good yields. So, and we're in it for the long run, so,
Right.
you know, maybe in the next year or two, they don't do anything, but what happens in 3 to 5 years when they jump, you know, how many ever, 20 or 30 or 40%?
well, you made a good point a couple of minutes ago. You know, what's the yield on $130 stock, but what's our yield if we bought it at 50 or 75? So our yield is pretty decent. But I always use 3% as sort of my goal benchmark, if you will. So if you're yielding 1.5 to 2%, I think of that as the low side, because if you're not yielding anything at all, I wouldn't normally want to buy it for this portfolio. So. At the same time, all the really good yields and the utilities and so forth have been lost in the dust by growth stocks. So, what can I say? That's why we hire.
Is there any homework
Eric.
that we should do before the October meeting, that if we want to recommend? Some
Well, I
stuff?
think go through the portfolio in a little bit more detail than we
Okay.
did for today's event.
Okay,
And if we have specific questions or,
that way we'll be
Such.
prepared for the November meeting.
yeah.
I recommended Pepsi and at $100 to them, and they laughed at me and told me their analyst didn't like Pepsi, and now it's $138.
How long ago was,
That was last year.
yeah?
So I don't think they really want our recommendations. I think we can talk to them and say, hey, you know, maybe you should consider more of X, Y, or Z, but, you know, if you're giving them the goal, the charter or whatever to manage the portfolios, you can't really tell them what to buy.
Yeah, yes, we can.
Well, maybe a little, I mean, not really, but maybe a little bit, I don't know.
Well, not necessarily individual picks. I think more sense of direction,
Yeah.
which we've done when we've,
Well, we've talked to them about domestic holdings versus international holdings and that
Yep.
sort of thing.
and when we have a sense of direction for a yield goal, so forth, they do that. All right, so November. Which brings up future meeting dates. We were originally scheduled for October 18th. I'm going to be traveling, returning on the 17th.
I'd
Oh.
go for the 25th.
So I'm wondering if we can do the 25th. Does that,
Okay.
That
Fit
works for
everybody?
me. Works for me.
okay, that's,
If you're coming back on the 17th, what's wrong with the 18th?
well, if I'm stuck in California and my plane is delayed,
okay.
then, then I wouldn't make the meeting.
Okay.
And it also, since I'm making up agendas and so forth, we usually do those a week or 10 days ahead of time, and I wouldn't be here to make up what I would refer to as a timely agenda. It would just be something generic, and then we'd have to fly.
I hear you.
All right, so
Okay.
25th. And
November?
November
November.
29th is the day after Thanksgiving, and we're getting Christmas trees, so tentatively,
so you want to do the 22nd?
so the 22nd would be better for me.
22nd, okay.
So you're pretty sure that's when the trees are coming in, huh?
Don't hold me to that, Chris.
No meeting in December.
I talked about vocational issues. We need truck drivers too.
Guys, I already had the 22nd with Cambridge Trust. I mean, I thought we just made these decisions this morning. I already had it written in my calendar.
You're prescient, that's all.
Okay. December, no meeting, huh?
Merry Christmas.
Oh, okay.
And is
We
there,
could always have a meeting if we deem it necessary.
right,
Around the Christmas tree.
is there anything else we need to bring up? You got anything, Tom?
No, I've not gotten any feedback from the auditors on the trust fund stuff. It may still be coming. They're still working their way through things, but nothing to report at this point.
Well, it's too late. We've already filed our stuff with the state. So.
True.
That was a terrific job, by the way, guys.
The only other budgetary issue I would note is the state still doesn't have a budget. And in October, if we don't have a budget, then the towns don't know how much money they're going to receive. And that raises Cain with the tax rate. Doesn't affect us directly, but as long as we're watching finances and so forth, that's interesting to me. So, nothing else?
I would motion we adjourn.
Second?
9:13.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Today's 9:20. Beth, we should have ended at 9:20 or 9:20.
I'm on my way to Booth Bay Harbor. Anybody